Eustace Hayden Gibbons never recovered from Ella's death. Friends said that he was paralyzed by grief. Kentucky Journalism Hall of Fame news anchor Don Neagley of Russell's WRUS AM radio recently spoke of Mr. Gibbons' emotional state when his wife's body was found. He had accompanied the search party to Martin Cemetery in 1966 and recalled that Mr. Gibbons panicked when a fellow searcher discovered Mrs. Gibbons' remains. He said that Eustace's screams of anguish echoed off the surrounding hills. Mr. Nagley concluded, "There is no doubt in my mind that that man had nothing to do with this." Eustace Gibbons died on September the 29th, 2009. He was 99 years old. He was survived by his son Lanny of Bowling Green, 3 grandchildren, and 5 great-grandchildren. His funeral was conducted at Price Funeral Home in Lewisburg, where Ella and her father, Edgar Carroll Harper, had been laid out 43 years previously. Eustace was buried alongside Ella at Quality Baptist Church Cemetery in nearby Butler County. Mrs. Chester Harper of Bel Air Bluffs, Florida, Ella Gibbons' sister-in-law, posted an online condolence on Eustace's funeral home guest book. She wrote, "Lanny, I was sorry to read of Eustace's death, and my sympathy at this time to you and your family. Many years have gone by since we have seen one another, and I have thought of you often, wishing you the best. Betty." Lanny Ross Gibbons, who has never, to my knowledge, publicly spoken about the death of either his mother or his grandfather, did not respond to the author's request for interviews. Edward and Elzadie Harper, who were the unofficial spokespersons for the Harper Gibbons families, remained in Louisville. Edward devoted much of his free time to the Robinson Masonic Lodge, while Elzadie visited himself with the Order of the Eastern Star. They were active in their church, Melbourne Heights Baptist Church, near Louisville's Bowman Field. Both attributed their ensuing health problems to dealing with the aftermath of the Harper murders. They were buried along with 2 of their adult children in Louisville's Rest Haven Memorial Park. Edward Harper's siblings are all deceased. The first edition of Peach Orchard Road, the documentary, hit bookstores in November 1975. The work quickly became synonymous with the Harper Gibbons murders. It was released in both hardback and paperback editions. Book World Communications released 3,000 paperbacks in November 1975 and 1,000 hardbacks in February 1976. The true crime story quickly became a collector's item. Copies have sold for upwards of $400 on eBay and Amazon.com. The volume has walked out of several libraries over the years. The Hopkins County Madisonville Public Library System currently requires patrons to post a cash deposit to check out the book. Peach Orchard Road, the place, which overlooks Lake Malone, took its name from a commercial fruit orchard operated by the O'Neill family. A dozen more people have been buried in the well-kept Martin Cemetery over the past 40 years. Ghost hunters claim that the gulch just below the cemetery where Mr. Harper and Mrs. Gibbons were dumped is haunted. They tell of hearing car motors idling and ghastly screams coming from the draw. Locals dismiss those claims. The Harper Gibbons slayings remain a topic of conversation in parts of western Kentucky and middle Tennessee. The case has found its way into the annals of the region's folklore. The murders remain unresolved. The prosecution filed away the charges against the remaining 2 defendants in 1977. The Kentucky State Police closed its case in 1978. More questions than answers remain. Many have questioned the significance of Mr. Harper's holdings. Probate records estimated at the time that his estate was valued at $103,000. The Consumer Price Index today suggests it would be worth $750,000 to $800,000. Many Logan County residents never forgave the people of Christian County for acquitting James Taylor Lovett. A former Logan County official recently voiced those sentiments when he remarked, "The people of Hopkinsville did not do us any favors." Edward and Elzadie Harper did not feel the same. They came to understand the jury's verdict. The Harper Gibbons case lacked credibility from the beginning. The Kentucky State Police had no forensic evidence. The agency built its case entirely on the purported allegations of Mrs. Carolyn Brown. Carolyn Brown Hampton's testimony, like any potential statements from Alfred Penny Harvey, was suspect since they each had soiled hands. The news media, which covered the Lovett trial, felt that the Commonwealth's case dangled by the skin of its teeth. They were not surprised by the jury's quick decision. Excuse me. The Kentucky News Penny Ryle editor, Mike Herndon, a native of Russellville, predicted that Lovett's acquittal would end the proceedings in the case. Journalist Al Smith, who covered the case from its inception, summed up the prosecution's lack of evidence best. Smith warned readers in December 1970 that Lovett's guilt or innocence rested entirely on the testimony of Mrs. Carolyn Brown Hampton. Smith stressed that Carolyn had been diagnosed as a mental defective by a state psychiatrist months before the slayings. He expanded that train of thought in March 1972 when he subtly suggested that the Harper case might need further investigation. Detective G.C. McMillan, KSP Post 3 Bowling Green, was promoted to the rank of lieutenant in the early 1970s. He retired from the state police in 1980 and went to work for the Logan County Sheriff's Office, where his wife Doris had been employed by 3 sheriffs, including 2 elected under the Doc Beecham machine, and Sheriff Jim Johnson, who defeated the Beecham machine. The author conducted an extensive 2-part oral history interview with Detective McMillan at his Russellville home on January 17, 2013 and March 1, 2013. McMillan was 82 years old. He was fit as a fiddle and had aged well. His memory was impeccable. He indicated that he enjoyed retirement. He said he volunteered at Russell's First Baptist Church and spent a lot of time with Heidi, his 10-year-old miniature dachshund. The McMillan interviews, which focused on little-known aspects of the Harper case, lasted approximately 3 hours each. The tall, lanky lawman confided that he frequently thought about the Harpers and regretted that the murders were never resolved. His thinking had not changed much through the years. He still believed that the slayings resulted from an armed robbery gone bad rather than from a kidnap for ransom. That the banker and his daughter were killed when Mr. Harper had a heart attack or when their captors realized he could not open the Lewisburg bank vault. That Ella Gibbons was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time, and that no one in the Harper Gibbons family had anything whatsoever to do with the plot. McMillan was convinced that there were other influences in the case. McMillan defended Eustace Gibbons. He thought Mr. Gibbons was the target of idle gossip. He said, "I felt sorry for Mr. Gibbons, but he wore me out. He would call me every Sunday morning after the trial for years to rehash the case. I finally told him I couldn't keep on. I asked Eustace to quit calling. He did. But I have no doubt whatsoever that Eustace Gibbons was innocent." Detective McMillan identified a mystery witness that popped up throughout the Harper investigation as a Mr. Belcher, who had left Kentucky and gone to Indianapolis shortly after the Harpers vanished. McMillan was confident Mr. Belcher knew something about the case, but he was just not sure what he knew. He concluded Mr. Belcher drank a lot. He never made a lot of sense, but I always thought he knew something. What, I do not know. Detective G.C. McMillan died at Vanderbilt University Medical Center in Nashville on April 2, 2014, after a brief battle with cancer. He was survived by his wife Doris, daughters Vicki and Julie, and his beloved Heidi. Buddy Crabtree preached his funeral at Russellville, Summers, Kirby, and Sanders Funeral Home. He spoke of G.C.'s devotions to faith, family, and fight. He likened G.C.'s law enforcement career to that of a soldier at battle. Detective McMillan was buried in Maple Grove Cemetery near Russell's historic downtown. He will be remembered by many as an officer and a gentleman. Carolyn Brown purportedly put herself at the Harper crime scene in a statement she gave to Detective Leroy Poole and others in the spring of 1970. Her allegations became the crux of the Commonwealth's case. Many close to the Harper case felt that Carolyn Brown Hampton was truthful when she said she was in Lewisburg in December 1965. They simply did not know who was with her. Carolyn Brown was born in Hopkins County in 1950. She was the daughter of Delma and Wanda Eastwood Brown. She was named Caroline, but called Carolyn. Social Security records confirm that Carolyn applied for her Social Security card after the Lewisburg murders. Later in life, she went by Carolyn Irvin and Caroline Cobb. Carolyn was a perpetual wanderer. She crisscrossed the country much of her adult life. She flitted between Evansville, Indiana, Temple Bar, Arizona, and Golden Valley, Arizona, but invariably returned home to Hopkins County. Carolyn Brown Cobb died of centrilobular emphysema on Friday, June 22nd, 2007, 2 weeks after her 57th birthday. She was survived by 3 brothers and 3 sisters. Bandy Funeral Home at Nortonville in Hopkins County was in charge of her funeral arrangements. Carolyn was buried with little to no fanfare following a simple graveside service in Oakwood Cemetery in Arlington. Her modest headstone was inscribed, "Beloved Sister and Aunt, Carolyn Elaine Cobb." James Taylor Lovin completed his parole obligation on October 3rd, 1982. Kentucky Governor John Y. Brown Jr. restored his civil rights in full on March 18, 1983. Mr. Lovin remained in Hopkins County. He lived in the Ilsley community near Dawson Springs. He maintained his innocence to the end in the Harper case. James Taylor Lovin died on April 25, 2013 in Dawson Springs. He was 77 years old. His funeral was held at Reed Walters Funeral Home in Arlington on April 27, 2013. His ashes were buried in Oakwood Cemetery overlooking Arlington Lake, which is now known as Loch Mary Reservoir. His stepdaughter posted a public notice on the funeral home's guest book. She wrote in part, "I will miss Jim so much. He was my stepfather for 30 years. He has given me many, many lives. He treated my mother like the treasure she was. Jim was a wonderful human being. I will miss his phone calls and talks. Mere words cannot say what my heart feels." Ironically, James Taylor Lovin and Carolyn Brown are buried within holler distance of one another at Arlington Cemetery. James Ernest Bailey, who was foreman of the Logan County grand jury that investigated the Harper Gibbons slaying, was 22 years old when tapped by Judge Fuqua to head the panel. He became a rising star in Logan County Republican Party. He was elected county judge executive at 30, but became embroiled in a major scandal during his second term and was convicted of malfeasance and official misconduct. Mr. Bailey died on April 28, 2013 at his home north of Lewisburg, just 3 days after James Taylor Lovin passed away. Bailey's death was ruled a suicide. The Logan County coroner indicated that he had died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the mouth. He was 65 years old. Mrs. J. Gail Guyland, a Harvard Law School grad, was appointed Logan County's Commonwealth Attorney in 2008. She was an adolescent when the Harper's murders occurred. She recently talked with the author about slayings. She said in part, "I vividly remember the fear expressed to everyone I knew when the Harpers were abducted and murdered. No one could comprehend that such a horrendous crime took place. To this day, there remains a sense that closure is not within our grasp." Mrs. Gowling acknowledged that she would like to see the Harper Gibbons slaying solved, but admitted that she has doubts about the case. She was confident that Carolyn Brown was in Lewisburg, but she, like the Lovin jury in Hopkinsville, was not sure who was with her. Mrs. Gowling concluded, "I would be honored to bring the Harper case back before the court should plausible evidence surface." The Harper Gibbons case will likely never be resolved, but hopefully its story will survive. Maybe someone's deathbed confession will solve the Harper Gibbons case, or perhaps the riddle will die a natural death once there is no one left to wonder.